Good day, class. This is week 8 of the lesson, which is entitled Implementing Audio in Android's App. This is actually a chapter 5, which is continuation of the previous discussed lessons about the arrays. Okay, so with this chapter, these are the objectives. The first objective is that you could learn here about the Android project using splash screen. So meaning this actual screen that automatically view based on the main page or the main screen. Then also you could learn here about the text view control using a different background. You could use as pause for execution of an activity using a timer. You could also understand here the life cycle or the activity life cycle. Also, you could create here a different method such as the on create and finish activity. Okay, and also you could learn here about assigning classes based on the variables, and also we could create a row folder for music files. Part of the continuation of objectives that you could play a music with the media player method. Also, you could learn here about the start and pause method using a playback button. Also, you can learn here the property using a text in a different control and changing the visibility of a control itself. So with that objective, first we need to know what is the implementing audio. Okay, so in order to implement the most common smartphone activities such as the texting or the text, talking, gaming, apps, multimedia, those actually played along with the music. So in Android app, we could integrate those files that associated with the common activities in smartphone. So as you can see with the given figure 6.1, 6-1, Alho Music Android app, and figure 6-2 is music played in the Android app. So there are different file extension in generating a multimedia. Okay, as we go through, we could import those files that's already given. Okay, then next there's a steps to complete the app. So the first one is you need to create a splash screen, of course given with the timer. The second one is the text view with the background image, as you could go along with the background, and we could initialize based on the timer. So timer tasks, same as other object-oriented programming language, they need to initialize the timer. So we also launch the other activity, and we need to design the second XML layout followed by the music files. So get ready for the raw file so that we could import under the music files. Then right after that, you could add or you could initialize the media player class, or we could have a class under the main class. Then after that, you could play and pause music with a button control. So we need to create a button enable for us to control the music that played in a class. Okay, so in creating a splash screen, as you can see, there's a windows you could create automatically based on the layout. So in this example, we have activity name splash activity. So this the name, activity name, then the title. Okay, the next we have image is not an image, or image is not an image view based on the text view. So we need to control that in a different background image. So as you can see here, there's a drawable. Okay, so we have an image files that actually had resource files under resources. So all you have to do is to drag the different image files. You could use JPEG, PNG, or any file format will do as long as that image. Then followed by background you need to set. Okay, so actually you need to design based on the editor tabs. So there are different keys here. I have here the ukulele, I have here a drums, button ukulele, button drums. So these are my keys that added in the string. Then the default value, as you can see, we have an image for ukulele, drums image, play ukulele songs, and play drums songs. So these are the default value that you can see in table 6-1. Then right after that, adding a background image to a text view widget. So we have a widget here. I have to make it plain text view control with an image of the sounds of Hawaii. So whatever image will do as long as related with the music. Okay. So this my activities flash.xml tab, and these are my background. So formatted Hawaii.png that is played in the text. So all you have to do is to locate that image. So as simple as that. Okay, next, creating a timer. So a timer in Java can take note. In creating a timer, you need to set that by milliseconds or by seconds. Okay, so example, you have a 1 minute, you need to set that as 60 seconds. So you have to execute that in a way that you could open the screen as you open the home page, or if you open the main page. Okay, in performing continuous process, such as example, we have a morning wake up or wake up call. We have the snow your or the intervals. For example, you have an alarm clocks. You need to set an intervals. So those are the part of the timer that Java can do. Okay, so you have to set or control that based on the given seconds, minutes, or even hour will do. Okay, or you could use a stopwatch as well. Then you could use two Java classes named here timer task and timer. So each timer runs in a single thread. So what is a thread? We say thread is sequential flow, meaning there's another program that control with it within the thread. So meaning if there's a thread, then another flow of a different program will do. So in a sequence manner. Okay. So that's how we call a thread. Clear? Clear now. Okay, good. So this is the syntax for the timer. So we have the timer task. Okay, that's actually the name of the timer task and the task of my variable. So I need to instantiate as new as my keyword with the method of timer task. So my method is the timer task that would override the run method. So meaning by default, you could see here the auto-generated method. So what we need to do is to add a code under the public void run as our method. Okay, so here, as you can see here, I have here the timer task called new timer task. This is a tap or click timer task. So I actually input here under the layout, which is on line 17. The auto-generated stub for the run method is created automatically for the timer task. So as you can see, this auto-generated. So all you have to do, take note, you have to create a semicolon and stub. And stub, meaning if you don't have a semicolon, it will not run at all. It will debug. So meaning you have to create a run method within the line 20. Then after the line 20, you need to execute that using a semicolon. Just as common error that in sometimes in creating a timer, they will neglect. So make sure that you have to put on this way. Okay? In scheduling a timer, this is a code syntax. Timer opening is called new timer. So opening that scheduled task. So I have here 5,000. Okay? So depending on your seconds. Okay? So I created here in line 25, the timer open is called the new timer. So this is the instant of timer that you need to set. Okay. Then right after that, the timer that equivalent to scheduled in 5 seconds is 5,000 milliseconds. So example, if I have 1 seconds is equivalent to 1,000 milliseconds. Okay, so that's how it converted. Okay, 1 second is equivalent to 1,000 milliseconds, and 60 seconds equivalent to 1 minute. That's how it computed. Okay, so by our case, we could compute that by milliseconds, so that it would convert into seconds. Clear now? Okay, good. So the timer open is called new timer. So I have here the opening that scheduled task. Open close the task, which is the name of that particular variable, then followed by 5,000 milliseconds. Automatically, 5,000 is a milliseconds already. You don't need to put ms because it's already generated based on the libraries of Android Studio. So that's automatically instantiated. Okay. Next. After that, you insert that in line 26. Then let's proceed with the life and death of an activity. So each activity has a life cycle. So when we say life cycle, these are the series of actions or the series of steps wherein you could set from beginning up to the end. So meaning there's a flow of process. Okay? So when activity begins, you need to create on create. Take note, the method is on create. Then after that, it would load into memory. Then after you execute, you need to create an end. Execute means an end. So you need to create a method using on destroy. On destroy method is actually removing from the memory itself. So meaning whatever is stored in it, it will remove. That's what we call on destroy. Okay, so we have on create and on destroy. So there are four states of an activity. We have an active, pause, stop, dead. Active means it's running. Pause means stop. Pause means you have to pause it. It will not continue until such time you need to stop. Then after you stop, dead means you need to end. Clear now? Okay, good. So these are the descriptions. Okay, there's a lot of descriptions here, but you can read it between the lines. These are the methods on create. As I said, on create method begins each activity. Okay, then on restart, meaning you need to begin it again. On start means you need to start to make it visible. When you say on resume, you need to interact that based on the previous step. So meaning you need to resume those methods. Take note, the on resume method is always followed by an on pause. It's natural to have an out pause before to resume. You cannot resume if it's not on pause, right? That's how the process of the life and death activity. Then after that, we have on pause, meaning is about to resume. Okay? Then on stop, this method hides the activity, meaning the activity layout would stop based on whatever animation or video play. It doesn't matter. It will stop. Okay? Then another method is on destroy. So meaning they actually end or finish that part. Okay? When the next activity is called, it releases all the resources for the first activity. So meaning, when the next activity is called, the other activity would resume prior, meaning the previous one. Okay? So that's how the finish method part. Clear now? That's actually for table 6-2. So now we proceed with the life and depth on cycle activity or an activity. This is actually the continue. So take note, there is an oval. Oval represents a major state of the activity, while the rectangles represent methods that can be implemented to perform operations. So example, this is the Android life cycle. Okay, so this is the Android life cycle. Let's start with the activity starts. Okay, so on activity starts, there's a methods that consists of starts, meaning there's a button to start. So we have here on create, on start, and on resume. Okay, so here in on resume, meaning the activity is running. Okay, if another activity comes in from the activity, meaning it's still running. Okay, if the activity use a pause method, so technically it will pause based on the activity that comes to the foreground. Meaning, you could post that, but still, you could resume, right? Pause, then resume. So that's how it connects. Okay? Then right after that, we have here on stop if the activity is no longer visible. So meaning if there's certain image or video, it will stop. Kaya it's actually hidden. It will hide. Okay? Then after that, if it's on stop, the activity comes to the for background again. If you want to on restart. So meaning if you on stop, then it's a time you could on restart. Then if you restart that, then you can start. You cannot technically stop and start. You need to go through on start method followed by on start method. Take note for that. So that's the sequence of the activity. Okay? Then after you on stop, you could make an on destroy. So meaning it will end all the activities. Okay? After and all of those activities ends, then the activity is shut down. So the question is, if the on pause and on stop applied in the main memory, the process is killed. So meaning the still same as with the scenario of the CPU. If there's a running apps, or example, if there are running videos or media player, you cannot actually open one player, example Windows Media Player, with another video media player one at a time, right? You cannot actually open at the same time, not unless if you have another application. For example, you have media player, you have VLC player, that will be fine. But take note, it's a first come first serve. Whichever which is the first one to play, then it will play. Okay? Same as with the CPU, it will kill the process, it will stop if you end the process. That's how the flows goes. So therefore, the process is killed and the user navigates back to the activity to on create method. So meaning it will back to on create and on start until such time you end the activity as is to shut down. So that's how it process. It's not actually by on create and on destroy, but there's a process. Okay, you cannot play a music in playing all of those music itself, but there's a selection that you need to set. So those are the method that you need to set in order to perform those operations. That's how the activities works. Okay, that's what we call the Android life cycle. Okay, next we have the life and death activity as continued. So to finish, so the finish method statement release the resources that were created for the splash activity. So the splash activity and the class activity as well. So on line 22, you need to create a finish as part of the finish method. So meaning it will end. So finish method. But still, line 24, 25, 26, 27, still it same scenario. You cannot edit that. Still, the flash is still there. All you have to do is to create a finish method enable for us to call. Launching the next activity. So take note, after the splash screen is destroyed, an intent, you know already the intent, right? An intent must request that the next activity is launched, meaning you need to request another activity using intent. Okay? Then after you intent that, you need to create a default layout using the main.xml, which already existing. Okay? Then the second class name is main. That must be created before the code can launch the Java class. Then after that, it will go along with manifest file. The manifest file that actually updated based on the include main activity. So meaning, you need to include that by default, the main activity. Then after that, the playing music will be responsible to handle the main activity itself. So meaning, they're the one to play along those musics that are already set. Then next we have here, a second class name mean the main activity and activity underscore main.xml. So it's already here. So you already know this. You had to add and click finish. Then after that, we have here the splash activity.java tabs. And here is our the start activity as our second class. Okay. So meaning you need to launch the main activity after the splash screen to display that in every 5 seconds, or display that by 5 seconds. So meaning there's a 5,000 milliseconds. So in 5 seconds, it's automatically appear. That's why how we call the splash screen. We have here the image file, or the image for the first song named Ukulele is placed in the activity main, activity underscore main XML, which actually in figure 6-16. Okay, so here is the activity main, image view control, the layout, and the margin. So you already know how to lay out. So just be um, creative in doing that. Okay. So next, after that, you need to create a button. Okay. The button that could select the first song, which is named Ukulele. You have to insert the button control. Then after that, the image and button selected with the second song. So meaning we have the image view control for the drums and the formatted button control which is named play drums songs. Okay, as simple as that. You know already how to create the layout, so let's proceed with the class variables. Okay, so you already know the variables, right? Okay, so here in the class variable, we need to recall the local variables. So meaning, when you say local variables is within the method. So you cannot have an instantiate method if you already set the local variables. So meaning you cannot have outer variables but inside the method. Okay? So by definition, the scope of a variable refers to the variable that is visible within the class. As stated here, when the variable is needed in multiple methods in a class, that's the time you could create a global variables. When you say global, okay, when you say global variables, those are in a public variables. Okay? So, in the global variables, as stated here by definition, is what we call the class variables, or the public class, whatever variables are stated. Okay? Clear? Okay, good. So, example, the class variables that can be accessed by the rest of the program are initialized based on the figure 6-19. So here, as you can see, by line 13 to 15, I created the button, or the variable for the button is button 1, button 2. Then I have a media player, which is the variable name is MP ukulele, MP drums. Okay, that's how the media player works, and have an int for playing, since int for playing is a number or is an integer. So therefore, I use it as int, as playing as my variable. That's actually part of the local variables that I created, the class variables that I already initialized. Okay, so those are the button, media player, and of course, the primitive class variables. Okay, so you already know the primitive class variables, right? We have the int, we have string, we have a float, double. So those are the primitive data types. So here, I use only an int because it's for the seconds, or the milliseconds as well. Okay, then after that, in line 18, by default, you could see 18 to 21 is actually by default. You don't need to add those things because it's already activated once you initialize that package. Okay, clear? Next. Then, after you come up with this part, we already done with this, line 13 to 15. Okay, check. Now, we need to override that in line 18 to line 22. So therefore, we need a buttons to control the instantiated value. So how we can instantiate that, or how can we instantiate? First, we need to set the first button, okay, as our ID, as button ukulele, and the second button as a button drums, because we need to instantiate the ID. Otherwise, it will not run. Okay? So that's how a part of onCreate. Take note, the cycle, right? onCreate. Next. Then, after that, we have first button on click. It's actually auto-generated stub, so you don't need to write anything. Just simply add the semicolon. But if you can see, actually it's automatic generated, but if you can see that, you can use a semicolon. But by default, it's already there, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so next. Then here, automatically generated. So let's proceed with the playing music. Okay, by default, in playing music, in Android phone, there's a built-in players. Usually the media players. Okay, so Android phones and tablets have a built-in music players nowadays. There's a lot of players that associated in any mobile devices, not only in Android, but also in iOS, such as VLC. VLC will run in iOS, VLC will run in Android, because VLC is cross-platform. But if you run the Windows Media Player in iOS, technically it will not run. The you need the other applications, such as the movies in terms of the player. So we have the iTunes, okay, so for iOS, but you cannot run alone with an Android. Okay, so there's a compatibility issues concerns, but in playing music, we could have it across platform as we go through with iOS. So by finals, I could teach you those things in enabling the cross platforms, or what we call a hybrid applications. Okay, but not now. Okay, so by default, we have an MP3 for the most common, but you can use MP4. Okay, so you already know the WAV, the OGG, and MIDI. That's actually by default by Android Studio. You cannot see here the other players. Okay, the codec or the codec is a technology to compress and to compress, meaning if the large files that will not run, it will automatically decode based on the Android libraries. Okay, but still the audio is high quality as well, because it will reopen the original file as you play the music. Okay, but of course the image itself will suffer depend on your, or the capacity of your graphics or your phone. Okay, then next, creating a raw folder. So as simple as that, you need to create a raw folder with a drum that mp3 and ukulele that mp3. All you have to do is drag. Okay, or if you don't want to, if you don't want to drag, you need to select a particular folder under raw folder. Okay, next. So here's a media player class. It provides the methods to control audio playback on any Android devices. Disregard the version, okay? Because it's actually compatible. So we have a media player. So MP ukulele is equal to media player that, take note, create, because we already instantiated the create method. So these are the row that ukulele. So this is the name of that ID. So all you have to do is to add that in line 25. Okay? After you added that between line 25 to 28, this actually the statements blocks for both songs. We have the row folder for ukulele and drums folder for media player that we created recently. Okay? Then after that, you need to instantiate the ukulele as part of our new button. Clear now. Okay, as simple as that. Okay, actually it's a step-by-step process. All you have to do is to generate that to play along with the music. Okay, so here, as you can see in line 29, I defaulted that as 0. Since integer is a number which is composed of zeros to any integer values. Okay, so I have a method that could start, that could pause, that could stop. Start means to media playback, pause means to pause the media playback, stop the media. So those are the common media player states. So here on my state, I set as 0. Okay, that's my initial states. Okay, why? Simply because there's no more playing music. Not unless if you set that, for example, you set that is 10,000. So meaning if it's 10,000, you have 10 seconds to play. So by default, I need to set as 0 so that it will initialize based on the playback button that would resume or that could play based on the start, pause, and stop method. Okay? It's actually the variable that could change the state of the music that could change or the music that changes. Part of the continuation of media player state, as you can see here, the switch decision structure that determines the state of the music is coded for the first on-click method. So meaning on-click method. So here we have in line 33, so already know that, line 34, switch. So switch playing. So this actually our switch decision structure. We initialize as case as 0. So we need to initialize as 0 for the case statement. Starts the music plays. Then we need to create a start method to begin the ukulele songs. Then we need to initialize the playing as 1 to assign the users once it clicks again the case 1. So meaning if the case 1 posts the music, that's at the time it will play back the case 0. That's how the process look likes. Then after that, on case 1, the post music, if the case 1 poses the music, it play back. So meaning another one post, then play 0, playing equal to 0, and break. So that's how it looks like. So meaning, every time you start, okay, so you need to set to 1 to assign in determining the user that the user if clicks, once again, it clicks again, then the case 1 poses the music. So meaning, the case 1 will pose. Then after it will pose, then the post method poses the ukulele song. Then the playing is equal to 0. So meaning, if the user clicks again, the case 0 starts the music. So again, the MP ukulele start. You get my point? That's how it cycle. Okay? That's how we use switch case rather than if else. It will simply as the code if we could use a switch case statement. The structure rather. After you set the part of the case, so now we need to set text. Okay, so as you can see way back here, there's no text that's set. So in slide 36, we need to set a button. See, playing equal to 1 for case 0, break. Then playing is equal to 1, then break. Prior to break, I use to create in line 38, okay, this one, line 38, a button 1 that set text the word post ukulele song, then semicolon. And I added in a case 1, a button 1 that set text play ukulele song. That's right, play. The button 1 in case 0 is pause. So meaning they're different one, pause and play. That's how it provides the process. Okay, so clear now. Next, so here we have here the text. If you click the play ukulele songs, then it will play the song. Okay, text will change, of course. Next, so changing the visibility property using this code in, or by definition, the visibility property is the Java property that determines whether a control is displayed on the emulator. So meaning, if you can see that in emulator, that's what we call the default visibility property. So you need to set, or you need to create that using the following syntax. To hide the control, you need to set as button ukulele that set visible open close view that invisible. Simple as in VV.NET or in Visual Basic, hide and show. Example, button 1 me.hide, that's button 1 that show, or something like button 1 that hide, button that show. Simple as that in other OOP or VB.NET programming. But in Java, you could use as invisible and visible. Unlike other programming, they set as true or false. Okay, but here this is the code syntax. Clear? Okay, clear now. Next. So we have here the drums buttons. The drums button is hidden when the music plays and display the music stops, or the music stops. As you can see here in figure 6-30. Okay, so I added here in line 39 the button 2 that set visibility view that invisible. So clear now. I added in line 39. That's actually in case 0. Then in case 1, I added here in line 45 the visible. The other one is invisible. Okay, as simple as that. Clear? Okay, good. Next. Then after I added those things, you need to complete the code for main activity. Okay, so in changing the visibility using this code, we need to end. So this is how it look like. So invisible and visible. Then break. Break means you need to execute. You need to end. In switch, there's a break, then end. So take note the semicolon. Okay? Sometimes they will oversee the semicolon. Okay? Next. So this is the summary of our lesson. So the summary is that we already add the splash screen that displays a program name, RAM logo, or author name depending on the settings of the users, or the sets of the users. The splash screen, if you open the application that launched, view widget that displays the background color, or even the image as well. The timers that executes at one-time tasks or perform a continuous process based on what we set in milliseconds. Okay? Then also part of the summary, each activity has a life cycle. As I explained the life cycle, we have a begin for the starting part, for create method, until to destroy in the finish method. That's how the life cycle use. Then I also discussed the local variables based on the variables as part of the inner or the sequence of the process. I also used the variable scope in reference with the class, and I also created a built-in music player wherein the Android capable in handling a different extensions. That's actually default by the Android phones. Then the music files are typically stored in resources under the raw folder, which is the subfolder. If a new version of Android that you need to gain another resources, just simply drag, okay, which is actually under the resources or the resource files, or what we call the RSC. So that's how the summary looks. And part of the summary, the MediaPlayer class provides the methods. So take note, the control playback, we have the audio playback, okay, we have the post method, right, we have stop, okay, that's a part of the method. Then the Java property that controls whether the control is displayed visibility or invisible. Visible, invisible. That's part of the property. Okay, so that's the summary of the lessons. Okay, so in laboratory, I will demonstrate the sample of the programs in running an application using the implementing audio Android apps. And I will create another apps to demonstration laboratory. I will discuss that. I will demonstrate that by our laboratory so that you could interact with the exercises or the exercise number 4. Prior to that, I will discuss the laboratory for the demonstration. Okay, thank you for listening. Thank you for what. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.